Hey, welcome back to the True Lean YouTube channel. I'm Chelsea, and today I'm filming episode 20 of my knitting podcast. Hit another milestone there, and I got a lot to talk about today. I've kind of been, I have been trucking along towards my new goal, now that it's the holiday season, to finish everything on my needles by the end of the year. I do have, I don't know, I had so many plans in my last episode, and I'm really leaning into whatever I feel like knitting in the moment, which is a really conflicting feeling with wanting to get everything off my needles, because I have 4 sweaters in progress right now, which is a lot, but they're all at different stages. Well, that's actually not true. 2 of them are kind of at the same stage, and then 2 of them are not. But I find myself wanting to work with a lot of Aran weight yarns right now, do some colorwork projects, and I'm really battling this inner conflict of I want to cast on new things and I want to clear my needles. So I'm doing really good at clearing my needles, as evidenced by my first finished object today. I have 2 other things that I'm actually doing great. Let's just jump right into everything. I think that's enough of an intro. But yeah, what I'm wearing today is my first finished object. This is the balloon sweater by Petite Knit. And I knit mine using a hand-dyed yarn from Woolberry Fiber Co., which I'm realizing I wish I still had the tag for, but it is a BFL sock yarn base, so I think it's 75% BFL, 25% nylon, and then I held it with a strand of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Soft Rose, and this is the fabric that it created. The Woolberry yarn is called Flower Crown, is the name of the colorway. It's got all these nice little speckles in it that are kind of like an autumn rainbow. There's rust and brown and blue and yellow and just all kinds of wonderful shades. So the Petite Knit balloon sweater ranges from a 31-inch bust to a 51-inch bust, and which is 80 to 130 centimeters. It's an older Petite Knit pattern, so it is a little bit more limited size range than she does now. But I knit the first size because I think my bust usually fluctuates between like 79 centimeters to 81. So that's the size that I knit. And I did make a couple, maybe 1 mod. The main one you might notice is that I did a folded neckband instead of the kind of longer mock neck that the balloon sweater has. Just the look that I had in my mind when I decided to make the balloon sweater. So I didn't do anything fancy. I just knit it and then knit it together before starting the rest of the yoke. So the main feature of the balloon sweater, I would say, is the puffy balloon sleeve, which just turned out very dressy, glamorous, fancy. I actually really like how it fits. The other kind of defining feature, I would say, is this seam that goes down. Is it focusing? The kind of shoulder seam that kind of goes into where the sleeve like splits off. I don't know. Overall, I had a really great time knitting this. It took a while. I think I cast it on in July, along with Kahila from Handmade with Kay. And we were also knitting it with Alexandra's Garn. She finished much sooner than we did. I wanted to get this done because I was really excited about how the yarn was working up. And I think I did alternate skeins. I'm pretty sure that I did, except for in this sleeve, and you can kind of see it pooled here into this beautiful like galaxy. I don't know, like it's light in the middle and then becomes kind of pink on the outside and then blue on the outside, and I just think it turned out so pretty. The other mod that I made is shortening the ribbing by a lot because I don't love knitting ribbing. I think I wanted to make the balloon a little less dramatic, and so I think this is 2, maybe 2.5 inches. It's 2 inches. It's 2 inches as opposed to 4, which the pattern suggests. And I just like the look a lot. I think it turned out perfect for what I wanted. I did the same with the body ribbing, shortened that. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think I'm definitely going to get a lot of wear out of it. And I don't think it's a pattern that I would knit again, but I think that's largely because it's kind of a statement piece, not because I didn't enjoy the pattern, but I think having one in my wardrobe is enough. So I'm really happy with this finished object, and I just really tried to crank through it as just the time that it was on my needles, the length of time it was on my needles started to wear on me, and I knew I had to get some of these projects done. So balloon sweater is what I picked to crank through, and it was kind of funny. After I finished it, I had this I talk a lot about on here about how I really go through phases with my knitting. I'll go like a week maybe knitting a few rows on something, and then another week be knitting all day, every day, as many little pockets of time as I can fit in. And so after I finished this, which was during one of the weeks where I was knitting as much as possible at every single moment, I kind of needed a decompress week of not knitting anything, and I'm still kind of climbing out of that. It's mostly just the sheer number of whips that I have on my needles that's stressing me out, but today I feel a little better about it. I have 6 total works in progress right now, 2 of them that are in hibernation, so really only 4, but they're all sweaters, and I'll get into them when I talk about my whips. My second finished object is my new green hat. So I talked about this in my, no, it's not quite dry yet. I talked about this in my last episode, what happened to my last hat, which I think I can actually show you. So this is my hipster hat from before. It is stiff as a board and all the stitches are felted together, and I can't even get it over my head. It's shrunk so much after going through the wash, and it's just, I don't know why I haven't tossed it out yet, but it's tragic. Anyway, I wore this so much before that I decided to make another one. You can see the slight color difference pretty well, I think. This is much more of a yellow kind of grass green. This is a little more emerald, which is funny because this colorway is called emerald. This one is called statement green. But anyway, so this is my redo of this hat, which was sadly ruined. I actually ended up using a different pattern for this. So this is the Sprague hat. It's a free pattern from Barocco. Maybe it's Sprague, but the city is Prague, it has an S in front of it. I'm calling it Sprague. And I did that because I originally cast on the hipster hat, but my hipster hat that I made last year, that is now unwearable, unfortunately, I used an Aran weight yarn with the recommended needles in the pattern, which were 3.5 millimeter. And it's meant to be a DK weight yarn. So I went up 2 yarn thicknesses. And so for this one, I wanted it to be just as squishy as my last one, even though I was actually using DK weight yarn. So I went down to a 3 millimeter needle using DK weight yarn. I was worried it was going to be too tight. So I cast on 8 extra stitches from the hipster hat large size, and which the hipster hat only has 2 sizes. The large only, you knit a different length. So it's the same cast on size, which I thought was kind of shifty. But so I cast on 120 stitches, and once I got to the decreases, that didn't end up working with the pattern. You can see the hipster hat has a cross or an X style of decrease, and there's supposed to be knit stitches for where they all are, and the amount of stitches that I did for mine ended up having 2 knit stitches and then 2 purl stitches. So it wasn't working out at all. And so I was scrolling through Barocco's page, and they had a 2x2 ribbed hat that had these round decreases, just even circular decreases. And I was like, let me make that instead. So this Sprague hat is a worsted weight pattern, and I think it's on 3.75 millimeter needles. So this isn't knit to pattern, but I did follow the decreases, and I really like how it turned out. I did block it with waste yarn in there. So I don't know if you can see, there's a little, maybe you can see on the side better. Oh yeah, there's a little line where the waste yarn was kind of pulled tightly. So I might have to block it again, but I had waste yarn in there to make sure it wasn't gonna turn out too tall. And I think it turned out great. So now that I know I don't have to rip back and redo anything, I think I'm going to reblock it just to try and even out those stitches. But yeah, I think this hat comes in, I don't know about the sizing, but I feel like hats are pretty easy to, I mean, I made up the stitch count for mine, so I think they're pretty easy to customize. Anyway, I knit this hat over the weekend. I was so overwhelmed with my 4 sweater projects that I was like, I need something quick and snappy and something that will satisfy my cast off energy. So I knit this on Saturday and Sunday, and I think I finished it on Monday, but I just love it and I'm so happy to have it back. It's close enough to my old hat that I will get a lot of wear out of it still. So here it is. I'm really happy with that one. My next finished object, really excitingly, is a pair of socks that I had put on ice, hibernated. They were hibernating because I cast them on in the spring when I got the yarn. And I decided I didn't want to work on them at that time. So I put them away. And then a few weeks ago, I got them out to frog them. And I was like, actually, the ribbing is done. I've got like this much of the leg. Let me just finish it. So this was really fun because I brought it on a overnight work trip to Vancouver, BC, and I knit them on the train on the way there. I knit them during our sessions, training sessions and stuff, knit on them in my hotel room, and then I knit them on the train back, and I finished them pretty quickly after that. So this is a pair of vanilla socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. It's the pattern that I use for every sock pretty much. And this yarn is using, I mean the sock is knit using yarn from Bigfoot Yarn Co. She's a hand dyer in Washington State, and the color is called Fairy Ring. That sounds right to me. It's a really fun kind of foresty speckled yarn with all kinds of pretty colors in it. And these are ones that I just knit to pattern. They use 1x1 ribbing around the cuff, which I don't do anymore since the spring, but it didn't look half bad to me when I pulled it out to frog it. So I was like, let's just go with it. And so I'm really happy to have a new pair of socks. My sock mojo has been pretty low as we've started getting into fall, but now that I finished these, and they went by so quickly, I figured I would just, or I didn't figure, but I would like to do another pair of just vanilla socks. One of my works in progress that's in hibernation is a pair of socks called the Hobbiton socks. They're like a basket weave pattern. And I can't find it in me to even think about those. So I might be casting out a different pair of vanilla socks coming up here, but we'll see. Anyway, I have one more honorary mention. This is a weekend hat by Petite Knit that I made a while ago. And I just, I messed up all the decreases, and I actually frogged it this month in October and redid it. I think it was in October. It's November 8th, so we're still pretty early in the month. But I was just really proud of myself that I actually, oh yeah, I did do it in October, because I think Anna from APT Atelier does the October fix along, I want to say it's called, where you like, if you have something you want to fix, it's like motivation to get it done by doing a little make along. So I did do this in October, and this is, I already said the name of the pattern, and I used yarn that I got as scraps from Handmade with Kay, and it is Sorella Yarn Classic Sock in the color Studio and the color Lodge marled together. And yeah, so I really like this hat. The only problem is it's quite tight, and so if I wear it, it leaves 1x1 ribbing on my forehead. that takes many hours to go away. So I'll probably only be wearing this on outings outside where I'm not going to be going in and out of places in a way that I would take this off. Because it's kind of embarrassing just having a bunch of 1x1 ribbing across your forehead. But anyway, that is what I knit on for the last month, and I have a lot going on with my works in progress as well. The first one I will mention is my very first test knit. I'm not a test knitter. It's not something I'm interested in. However, one of my favorite content creators, Kalila Harry, has designed her first sweater called the Never Sweater. And in my eagerness to support her and make my own extremely oversized, beautiful, long sweater, I signed up for the test knit. So I've just cast on the neckband and done my one row, but it's gonna be so amazing. It's this kind of, it looks just like a perfect latte actually, and it's using this yarn from Beautiful Lola is the brand, and this is their Merino Seta. It's a merino silk blend with baby Surrey Seta, which is a Surrey wool alpaca blend. 65% alpaca, 10% wool, 25% silk. And together it's just making this floofy latte fabric. So interestingly, this is a fingering weight yarn. This is a lace weight, I guess. But this is a really like thick and thin yarn. Like it looks much more like a Sport or DK to me, just based on how it looks in my fingers. Like usually fingering weight yarn looks a lot skinnier of a strand than that. And that kind of tracks when I'm knitting it up. Like I did a swatch of just this and it did not meet gauge. It was too small, right? And then my swatch with the Surrey is too big. So the pattern calls for 4mm needles and I have sized down to a 3.75. And so for the collar, I think it calls for a 3.5mm and I went down to a 3.25mm. Is that right? Yes, I went down 1/4 millimeter for the needle size for both. I think that's what I did. Yeah, that's right. And I am so excited to knit this. The deadline for the test knit is late January, I think. And like I said, I've never done a test knit, and I don't know, it's a really fun experience. I am knitting the first size. Her size range for the sweater is 29.5 inches to 63-inch bust, or 75 centimeters to 160 centimeters. And I'm knitting the first size. And I say oversized because this pattern is designed to have 20 to 22 centimeters of positive ease, which is like huge. And I think I've heard her say that it's inspired, the design is inspired by one of her favorite oversized sweatshirts that she got from like a streamer as merch. And I was like, that is also my favorite thing to wear, is like oversized sweatshirts. So what a perfect knitwear design inspiration. So I'm really excited to have this. I'm really excited to style it when it's done. Like, I'm not really a leggings person, but I feel like since it will turn out so large, maybe I could wear it over leggings. Like, I'm envisioning myself as Cameron Diaz in The Holiday with all of my knitwear, let's be honest. Just doing like leggings and Uggs, being a little basic. I don't have any Uggs currently, but I've been wanting to invest in some again because they're so comfy. I'm getting off track. Anyway, so this is my first whip because it has the least amount of progress, but I'm really excited to get going on this one after I cast off my next sweater. So I think that's everything about that one. And then my next sweater, I think I had just the back panel last episode of progress, but this is the Hazel sweater from Petite Knit. And ripping is always so funny to share because it's so scrunchy before you block it, but that's okay. So the Hazel sweater is a design by Petite Knit, and the bust circumference ranges from 31 inches to 59 inches, or 80 centimeters to 150 centimeters. And I'm making the first size out of Olivia and Oliver Fibers Tweed DK in the color Seashore. It's such a nice yarn to work with, and I'm so excited to see this done. So I have joined in the body. I've gotten about maybe an inch, not quite an inch, past the sleeves, the armholes, but let me just show you the back because that's the most interesting part. The back panel with the shoulders coming off of it and the little, it is so pretty. It's gonna have this big chunky turtleneck, and I don't know, I'm really excited. This has not been going great. I think I even mentioned in my last episode that I have been struggling so much with the last knit stitch of the ribbing before I go into the purl stitch. The tension is just so bad, and my coworker gave me a tip to wrap the yarn the other way before going into the purl stitch, so the yarn has a shorter distance to travel from the back of the needle to the front of the needle. But when I was doing that, I was getting one small stitch and the next stitch was a big stitch, like going up the rows. I was getting a small knit stitch and then a long knit stitch and then a small knit stitch and then a long knit stitch. So I haven't been able to get it even. And that's kind of depressing me from working on it. You don't need to tell me in the comments that blocking will fix it, because I know blocking will certainly help, but it's just made me not really want to work on it that much. But I have an idea, and that is that I have no trouble with, sorry, I think I just hit you. I have no trouble with ribbing in hats. So I'm on a 24-inch cable right now. And I think just my 5-inch tips are making it too awkward, uncomfortable to work on. So I'm gonna try doing using my short tips like I do on my hats on my 24-inch cable and see if that like helps me with the tension a little bit. Because I think it's just a little too like stretched out for the, you know what I mean? I don't know if you can see how awkward it is. Like maybe because the ribbing is tighter, it acts differently at the join. I don't know, but I really want this finished object, so I've got to come up with a solution to make it a little easier for myself. So I think that's what I'm going to try next. However, that is not my numero uno priority at this time. My friend Megan helped me sort that out the other day. I love stretching out the fabric and just imagining. And I've been loving working with the tweed. So despite my tension turmoil, it's going great. And so my next whip that I'm focusing on is my Louvre sweater, which is another petite knit pattern. And I am this far into the body, about, 4 inches? I don't know. This is using Sorella Yarns Classic DK in the color Newsprint from the Autumn in New York collection. It's so speckly and delightful. I cannot wait to wear this. With this one, the yarn is so smooth. My tension is all over the place. I'm kind of a normal to loose knitter, so I hold my yarn and the needles like very loosely, and I'm just like, that's how I do it. But with this yarn that's this smooth and slick, it kind of gets a little wonky, but I know that blocking will fix this one. So I have quite a ways to go on this to finish it, but I am really excited to. Every time I pull it out, I get so excited by my tubular cast on that I did. It's so tidy and beautiful, and I'm just really impressed with myself. Not much to say about this, but I'm gonna manifest here that it will be done in my next podcast. Which I cannot believe there's probably only one podcast after this one for the rest of the year, because we're coming to the end of 2023 and I just cannot believe it. So I'm gonna say this is gonna be done in the next one. Do we think I can do it? The Louvre is a pattern that goes, the size range is from a 31.5 inch to a 55 inch bust, or 80 centimeters to 140 centimeters. And I'm making the size 1 first size. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a pretty roomy one. I've had a little drama with alternating skeins, but I think we're in good shape now. My skeins have varied a lot in how they look. My first 2 were very speckly, and then they kind of range with the amount of speckle. So I am doing my best to alternate now, but it's one of those things that I'm probably just gonna have to live with, and that's fine. It's a speckly sweater, so a little more here, a little less there. It'll still turn out beautiful. I think that's everything to do with that one. My last active whip is a sample that I'm knitting for the store that I work at, and it is Tori Yu's Shocking Stripes sweater. And I've made a lot of progress on this since the last one, I hope. Where's the back? Short rows. Here we are. This is Shocking Stripes by Tori Yu. It looks so cool. I love this pattern. I was struggling with it a little bit, but now that we're cruising along in the body, it's going great. The Shocking Stripes sweater has a size range of 30 inch to 60 inch bust, or 75 centimeters to 152 centimeters. And I am making the size 2 in Madeline Tosh Wool Cycle Sport, just one of my favorite yarn bases. I just don't want to be working with it in the fall and winter. It's such a light, nice, kind of almost summery feeling yarn that I'm really excited to wrap this one up. But I think I have 2 more stripes to do of the body, and then ribbing, and then the sleeves, so we're cruising. But the colorways I'm using are Antique Lace is the beige, and Neon Peach is the bright accent color. And you can really see it better the farther back it is. The closer up it gets, it kind of washes out. It has this really cute contrast detail in the collar, and I just think this is going to be really cute, so I'm excited about how that one is going. I am using my row counter from Twice Sheared Sheep that has all these little number beads on it, and so every time you start a new round, you move it to the next one, and it tracks very easily how many you've done. So I'm a huge fan of that. I'm really feeling, because I'm on the body of all of these sweaters, I really want to start a sleeve soon, and I feel like that could happen with this one. But I have so little left of the body, and this is one I'm trying to work on just at work, but I'm getting so close on it that I feel like I want to race to the finish line. The other thing I wanted to say about this is that I did block the yoke. So we're working with a half blocked sweater right now, because I wanted to see if the increases that I was doing and the short rows would kind of settle a little, and it did help. Again, I don't want to put it up close because that's when you can see kind of the bumps and whatnot, but yeah, so this was definitely a essential mid-project block for me. I'm weaving in my ends as I go, and the thing is just kind of flying at this point. I only work on it 1 day a week, and to have this much progress, I feel pretty good about that. Those are all my active whips. So it's 4 sweaters. The ones that I have hibernating right now are my terrazzo neck, which is a petite knit pattern, and the Hobbiton socks that I mentioned before, which is a pattern by Nurtured Knitwear. I don't know. No, that's a lie. I'll get to them in December. It's on my calendar. But I also have other things that I want to cast on, and I just wanted to show, well, it's a swatch for the Care sweater from Rebecca Clow. But just don't look at the edges. Oh, so cute. So this is my swatch for the Care sweater by Rebecca Clow, and I don't swatch. It's not a thing that I do. And so I was swatching in the round, as you can see, but I was still doing the pearl. This is what I did. I cast on my swatch flat, and I did the first couple rows flat, forgetting that I was going to do it in the round. And so I started doing like the pearl sides so it wouldn't roll up. And then I was like, wait, I'm doing it in the round. So I should have just had all knit stitches and just had extras on the side, but I did purl stitches on the side instead, and they got so wonky and like pulled the fabric a lot, and I don't know. Anyway, so this is the swatch. Overall, it's stunning. I'm so excited about it. These are the 2 yarns that I'm going to be using. This is yarn hand spun from my friend Megan over at Cat Cat Knits. It's the most beautiful green in the whole entire world, and I can't believe it's mine. The colorway is called Bronze Green. The fiber is from Living Dreams yarn. It's a BFL, love BFL, and it's a DK-ish weight. So the other yarn that I'm using, the main color is BC Garn Semilla Pura. And this colorway is 04. So these two together, they both have really nice kind of heathering. You can see the plies that are like 2 different colors. So this is kind of like a beige gray with a little bit of a pink hue. And then this is, you know, just beautiful. So this is my swatch. And I said I was going to have a swatch by the next episode, and here it is. So I'm very proud that I made this. And I am excited to have the sweater. I don't know when I'll get to cast it on, because maybe in December. I had all these plans in my last podcast episode. After my last podcast episode, I wrote out in my planner all the projects, like deadlines, like I was going to have this sleeve done this week, I was going to have the next sleeve done the next week, and whatnot. But then I lost all of my knitting mojo and I didn't do any of it. So as long as I had the swatch done, I was like, that's good enough for me. So I do have a couple of exciting, to me, mods that I'm going to do on this sweater that I've kind of seen on different projects on Ravelry. So I am really excited to get going on that one. But again, we'll see. So I mentioned earlier in this episode, I went on a work trip to Vancouver, BC, and I did manage to get over to Wet Coast Wools, which was a yarn store that I've heard about from a couple different people, and researched myself, and they had a lot of European yarn that I was interested in. So because it was a special trip and it's kind of hard to get my hands on this yarn at other times, I thought that I would treat myself a little bit. So I'm going to show you what I picked out. The first thing that I was really excited about was Plotulopi, which I'm kind of surprised by because I have had no interest in unspun yarn until recently, and I don't know what changed, but just all of a sudden I wanted to work with it, and so I got me some plates. And it's 100% wool, and the color I got is 03. So I got 4 plates of Plotulopi with the intent of making Ozetta's Miles shirt jacket. I am just really interested to see how this goes. So that is, I love squishing it. So that's one acquisition that I made, and I don't know, I'm just kind of happy to have it. This is the first time I've taken it out since my trip, so I'm excited about that. The other thing that I got is a sweater quantity of Peer Gynt from Santa's Garn. And I got the color 2321. I feel like that's the dye lot. No, that's the color, 2321. And I got it to pair with my Surrey skein of Woolbury Yarns flock colorway. And so what's going to happen here is the Surrey is going to be held with the kind of speckly neutral Surrey is going to be held with the main strand across the yoke. So it's kind of like an accent yoke. The pattern is the Travel Sweater by Tiff Nealon. And so I brought my skein of Surrey up to Canada with me to color match it, and I think it's going to be really nice. So it's kind of a cooler neutral. Actually kind of reminds me a little bit of what I'm wearing, but I'm really excited about this. I don't know when I'll get to make it, but there was a little bit of a discount buying in Canada at the time that I went, so I went for it. The other thing that I'm really excited about is something I did not expect for them to have at all, which is this unpronounceable Norwegian yarn that I picked out. Hilsfag Ulvare Fabric. That's what we're gonna call it. This base is called Luna, and it's 100% Norwegian wool in the color Unbleached White. It's an Aran weight yarn, and then I got this one. The base is called Vide, or maybe those are the colors. No, they're different. They're both 100% Norwegian wool. I don't know what I got. I have a pattern in my library that's called The Hiking Raglan by Vanya Strick. And it's an all over colorwork pattern. And I was planning to make it with Letlopi, but when I saw the exact yarn that's called for in the pattern at this store, I felt like I had to get it. And it is so soft. I mean, to me it's soft. It has a rustic feel, but it's so squishy, and just to me it's like, it just feels so good. And like having this as an all over stranded colorwork sweater, it's kind of like an outerwear sweater, which I'm really into. But I got enough yarn to make that sweater, and again, I don't know when that one's gonna be either, but because I'm kind of leaning into whatever I want to do at this time, I feel like it could be soon, it could be a year from now. I can't really say, but like I said, I'm itching to do Aran weight to get something off the needles, even bulky, I don't know. And I'm itching to do color work. I don't know, anything could happen. The last acquisition that I have is this guy. This is Beroko Ultra Wool. It's a go-to workhorse superwash yarn. And this is the color Lemon that I thought would make some cute mittens. I really need some mittens. The mornings are really cold now when I drive to work, so I need something to keep my hands warm on the cold steering wheel. And I just thought this was such a fun color. I thought it would be cute with my new green hat, like mittens and this together. Kind of citrusy, I don't know. Lemon, lime, green. And so I just got this to make Tin Can Knits World's Simplest Mittens, Easiest Mittens Ever, something like that. It's a free pattern, and I'm really excited to get going on it. So I have a couple of other hats on my wish list right now to make, and some other socks to knit. And so I feel like wild cards, it could happen, candle check, anytime, because all my patterns are so, or all my projects right now are all big projects. So we'll see. I do have plans to film one more podcast episode next month before the end of the year, and then either end of December or beginning of the year, I will do a wrap up of everything that I knit this year, which I'm so excited to revisit. It'll be my second year making a video like that. But thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed watching it, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more content from me in the future. It is a holiday here. Thank you, veterans. So I'm gonna keep on with my holiday weekend. I have a lot of knitting, writing, and resting to do today after filming. Leave a comment also letting me know what you worked on while watching this video. I always get a lot of inspiration from our little Treeling community here on YouTube. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys soon, and I'll see you in the next one.